Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of a brand new series here on the Inazuma Studios channel that I call Full Cinematic. And I wanted to start this series because I wanted to bring some of the same passion and love that I have for, comics and art that, I show on other series here on the channel. And I wanted to put that to some of my favorite films. So I hope that you guys indulge me and check out this episode and further episodes that I have planned, for Full Cinematic. And just come along for the ride. And hey, don't forget, you can always comment in the comment section below on, what you feel about, these films. If you're a fan of them, or, if there's something that you feel that I missed, definitely share down below and, let's start a community here. Okay, so the movie that I wanted to talk about today is a classic in Hong Kong cinema. It's from 1986, and it is A Better Tomorrow, directed by John Woo, and stars T. Lung, Leslie Cheung, and the inimitable Chow Yun-Fat. Now, this movie, like I'm saying, it's a classic, okay? It started the whole genre. Of I guess you would call it, or it's been called rather, heroic bloodshed. And what heroic bloodshed, is in reference to, it's just as it connotates, the characters within the film are willing to sacrifice themselves for each other or for some greater cause within the context of the plot, and you can almost see its roots. In fact, you can directly see its roots in the period martial arts pieces, the countless martial arts movies there in Hong Kong that preceded, A Better Tomorrow. But what Wu did was to transpose, those same types of themes to a modern setting. So instead of the period clothing, now you have them dressed in designer suits and long dusters and sunglasses and smoking and looking really smooth. You know what I'm saying? And instead of fists, you got pistols now, and that type of thing. So, this film, A Better Tomorrow, I kind of credit it with starting, or jump starting rather, that modern period of heroic bloodshed in Hong Kong cinema. And another thing too, before this, if I'm not mistaken, Wu had a film right before this, in '85 I think it's called Heroes Shed No Tears. It's been years since I've seen that, but I think that's the title of it, and it stars Eddie Koo, and that was almost a precursor to the heroic bloodshed, genre. But it was A Better Tomorrow that really got it started. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, A Better Tomorrow, set box office records in Hong Kong. It was immensely popular, hugely popular, and especially off of the performance of Chow Yun-Fat. In fact, it was because of Chow Yun-Fat's performance and the clothing that he wore, the sunglasses, the matchstick in the mouth, the long duster and everything, that you had kids over there, young people, imitating his dress, even though it's hot. It's hot as all get out. They were still, wearing the long duster and the sweaters and everything. But, just because Chow Yun-Fat was just cooler, man. He was just cooler than anything, cooler than nice. You know what I'm saying? So what is A Better Tomorrow about? A Better Tomorrow is basically about to me, it's a story about brotherhood and loyalty and honor, like all of those themes, and family. Even if the family is not also just your immediate blood, but also your friends as well. They can be just as close as family. So it has all of those themes running concurrent within it, and to me, A Better Tomorrow is about, being honorable to your friends and to your family. And sometimes to do the right thing, you have to make a sacrifice, even if your family doesn't understand it, or if even your closest, friends, don't understand it. But it's also about sticking by, your friends and family too, even through, the worst of circumstances. And so all of that is definitely prevalent here. And I'm not ashamed to say it will move me to a tear. The melodrama here is very effective. It is very effective, and it's through the performances of the cast. And they work so well together, So I know a lot of people, would say, and perhaps rightfully so, that Chow Yun-Fat kind of stole the movie. He just works well within the cast itself, because he goes from, the highs of highs to the lows of lows to, almost redeeming the character, so to speak. And it's just very, very good. Now, as for the cast itself, you have T. Lung, who was a veteran of those period martial arts films in the 70s and through the early 80s. And A Better Tomorrow marked for him a transition, from those films to a more modern setting, if you will. So instead of, the martial arts pieces, he was more of a triad gangster. And although you can actually see in the film, Wu does give him a chance to do some of his martial arts stuff. So it's not totally lost there. He's still so good, and he plays the big brother Ho, in the movie. And he's excellent in it. In fact, he's kind of the grounding, if you will, for the film. A lot of the film, is on his shoulders. And then you have, as the younger brother, Kit. He is portrayed by Leslie Cheung. And Cheung was a pop star there in China, there in Hong Kong. And I think he's perfect for the role. He has obviously the youthful enthusiasm, and almost like a kid brother. Truly like a kid brother, you know what I'm saying? And so Kit plays a young police officer who is looking to become a detective, an inspector, during the Hong Kong police force, which would put him on obviously opposite sides of the law versus his big brother Ho, T. Lung, And the thing is, Kit has no idea what Ho does for a living. He just thinks that he's a successful businessman, And so, Kit finds out, unfortunately, what Ho has been up to after the murder of their father, due to some of the activity that Ho has been involved in, And Ho ends up going to prison, and the two come to blows, So right there, you have the conflict of, family and of being honorable, and forgiveness. That's the other thing I wanted to say, and just about forgiveness too, because, Kit has to find some way to forgive Ho, for not being truthful with him, but also just, within itself, like, family just being, thicker, just that family blood being thicker than water, And then we come to Chow Yun-Fat, the inimitable Chow Yun-Fat. And I got to pop the matchstick in my mouth when I'm talking about him, just like Mark. Mark is the character that Chow Yun-Fat portrays in the film. And like I mentioned just a few moments ago, Mark is just, man, he's just cooler than anything. If you've ever heard of A Better Tomorrow, probably the key iconic shot that you've seen is him taking the $100 bill and the counterfeit $100 bill and just waving it. It's on fire, and he lights a cigarette with it. And he has the shades with the red background. Man, come on now. It gets no more iconic than that, and it gets no more cooler than that. Chow Yun-Fat, and just he's wonderful. I found myself just magnetized, by his performance here. Like, he is so good. Chow Yun-Fat was actually a veteran, of television in Hong Kong. Like, he had become a television star due to, I believe, soap operas, there. And it was actually A Better Tomorrow which propelled him to cinematic superstar status, and moreover to international stardom, just with his portrayal of Mark, the triad brother of Ho. And man, Chow Yun-Fat just By turns, he is playful, he's charismatic, he's ruthless, he's just he just portrays the whole gamut so well. He is so great. He's been called the Cary Grant of the Cary Grant of Hong Kong, and you know, I don't disagree. Like, he is so charming, and I know when I was younger, I took him more as, oh well, he's the action guy. You know, he's the guy that jumps with the doves and the two guns, you know, to the side and everything, and that comes later. But here you get like the beginnings of, you know, him, you know, portraying, you know, that type of character, and I think it's very pure here. There are more than a couple of scenes that we'll get into in just a second where he really exhibits, you know, his ability, and the screen just, man, just the camera just loves him. You know what I mean? So I mean, Chow Yun-Fat just really is just, he's fantastic in this movie. And then I also wanted to talk about John Woo, and this will probably be a good segue into some of the great scenes, you know, that are here in the film. Also, this also marks Wu coming into his own, in reference to, you know, some of the great, you know, American directors and films that he loved, you know, growing up. I guess they would be imported there, you know, in the very late 60s and definitely the 70s to Hong Kong. So he is obviously, you can see it in here, just plain as day. He's obviously a huge fan of both Sam Peckinpah and Martin Scorsese. And with Peckinpah, the thing about Peckinpah is, if you don't know who that is, he is a director who really came to prominence. Even though he had been working, you know, in westerns and in television before that, Peckinpah really came to prominence in, I guess, 1969 with The Wild Bunch. And The Wild Bunch was a western, but it was almost a revisionist western, if you will, because it deviated from the traditional, you know, mode of, you know, when people got shot, they would kind of clutch themselves and just double over. He ended that by showing bullet hits. He would actually put squibs on them. So not only entrance wounds, but exit wounds. And so that was revolutionary. I mean, it was so much so that they almost rated, I think they did for a time, they rated The Wild Bunch as X, rated X here in the United States, you know. But getting back to A Better Tomorrow, you know, I'm sure Wu saw, you know, The Wild Bunch and other Peckinpah films, you know, as they were being, you know, exported to, you know, there in Hong Kong. And, you know, he, you know, used that same technique, you know, if you will, for, you know, his films, and definitely you can see it in A Better Tomorrow. You know, one of the things in A Better Tomorrow that he borrowed from Peckinpah is cutting on action in terms of the shooting. He would show a character getting shot, right, and then the character would start to fall, and then Wu would go on to another part of the scene with other people, you know, there in the scene doing their thing, or other people getting shot, and then cut back to that very first guy still falling, and then cut away to other parts of the scene and other things going on, and then finally showing that guy hitting the floor, you know, cutting on action. That was very much a Peckinpah trademark. And Wu uses it very effectively here, in addition to the entrance wounds and the exit wounds, you know, and everything. The other reference that Wu makes is to Martin Scorsese, and in particular, there's one film that he borrows from here, and that's Mean Streets from 1973. And the two instances that Wu borrows from Mean Streets is one, when Chow Yun-Fat comes to the restaurant to avenge the betrayal of T Lung's character, by these other gangsters. He has a shootout in the restaurant, and the way he enters, you know, the way he kind of infiltrates this restaurant with no one being the wiser, is that he comes in with a girl on his arm in slow motion. And in Mean Streets, Scorcese shoots Robert De Niro coming in with two girls on his arms, also in slow motion, and it works at a dual purpose here. Not only are both of the characters, De Niro and Chow Yun-Fat, just making an entrance, in a very splashy kind of cinematic way, that also, gives evidence to their charisma as characters and just as actors too. But in the case of A Better Tomorrow and Chow Yun-Fat, it also shows how Mark is able to get in close to these gangsters in order to do the deed that he feels needs to be done. So as he's coming in, you see him also slipping, and this is not a reference to any of the movie, I don't think, but you also see Chow Yun-Fat slipping spare pistols, into the flower pots as he approaches the banquet room where these gangsters are. And, you really hadn't seen that as well. And so you're just like, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And so he finally gets to the room where the gangsters are, and all the sound just kind of, shuts out. And I think that might actually be a Peckinpah trademark as well. Just the sound just escaping the scene, as a pause right before violence hits. I think that may have been in Wild Bunch as well, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? Just that calm before the bullet storm. So you have Chow Yun-Fat doing his thing, blazing with the pistols, you know what I'm saying? And he goes out into the hall, and some of the gangsters come out there to try and shoot at him, as he's escaping. And he picks up the spare pistols out of the flower pots and, blast them, you know what I'm saying? So he thinks that everything is done, right? Pops the matchstick in his mouth, like, all right, well, I've gotten my retribution. Now I can leave. But then Chow Yun-Fat is shot in the kneecaps. He's kneecapped by one of the dying gangsters, and so he turns around and takes care of the guy. You know what I'm saying? And then finally, we get to the second part of the Mean Streets, homage that I was mentioning. John Woo himself actually appears on screen, as an inspector, investigating this the scene of the shooting at the restaurant, and it's almost as if you blink and you'll miss it. Woo comes in, he looks over the scene, and he starts this kind of almost like he's on a dolly, almost, like he's riding like a little cart or something. And he's being like pushed forward. He's not walking because it's too smooth. And it's like he starts it, and it just like he started to do it, but then he just said, nah, he thought better of it. But the reference is to Harvey Keitel when he enters the bar in Mean Streets, and he's clearly, you can see Harvey Keitel, he's kind of dancing and everything, but he's clearly riding on a cart, you know what I'm saying, or some type of dolly, to just show that he's very familiar with this place. Everybody knows him, and it's just a very smooth, stylish shot to have Harvey Keitel come into the place this way. So you have Wu trying to do the same thing with his thing in A Better Tomorrow. And also, in reference to Chow Yun-Fat, like I mentioned before, he has several scenes here in the film that are just so iconic. There's one in particular where they're sitting in a nightclub. It's Chow Yun-Fat, T-Lung, and another actor who you find out becomes the villain of the piece. A younger triad brother named Cheung, and they're sitting in a nightclub, and they're on the eve of Ho has to go to I believe it was Taiwan to complete a deal with these other gangsters who later betray Ho, leading to the restaurant shootout. Anyway, Chow Yun-Fat just he tells the younger brother Cheung, he's like, just, have you ever had a gun pointed at your head? It's don't think this is a game, basically, in so many words. And he relates a story that apparently actually happened to him and another Hong Kong director, Ringo Lam, where Chow Yun-Fat was he relates that he was actually made to drink urine, you know, by gangsters. Like he actually did have guns pointed to his head and everything. And you can see the emotion, you know, in Fat's face as he starts talking about it. Like he goes from, you know, half joking to all the way serious. You know, oh, it's so great, so magnetizing. I mean, if that doesn't sell you on Chow Yun-Fat, I don't know what will. You know, so you have him relating that, and the power of that, because obviously it was a true story. You know, for him, you know, his performance is just great, man. Another thing you have is when Ho gets out of prison. He's captured by the authorities and he's meant to go to prison. He's made to go to prison rather. And when he gets out, you know, he resumes, you know, a semblance of a life, you know, driving taxis. And so he happens to be driving a taxi around the city and he finds out what happens to Mark. And you can just see how crestfallen he is. You know, you can see the look on his face just when he discovers that Mark now, you know, after being shot in a restaurant shootout, he's crippled. And so he's, you know, just reduced to washing windows and just living on the whims of Cheung, that younger triad brother that I just mentioned, you know, in the scene before. Now Cheung is on top, and he just, man, even though Chow Yun-Fat's character Mark had, you know, done right by him earlier in the film, Cheung does not return the favor. You know, he just kind of, you know, casts off some bills to him and says, "Go get yourself some lunch." You know, just, oh, it's terrible. It's such a reversal of fortune that you can't help but feel pity for Mark, you know, from this dashing figure to what he's become now. And you can see it all on, you know, Ho's face, man. And so we follow Mark, you know, as he does get his lunch. And he goes down into his parking garage where he's made himself a little alcove, you know, and he's just sitting there, just eating his lunch, man, and just it's just so pitiful. Oh man! But then Ho shows up, and you can see the range of emotions on Chow Yun-Fat's face, where he goes from, you know, he hasn't seen. It's like he hasn't seen Ho forever, and now he feels ashamed because they were brothers in a triad and they had all the money and these great clothes and just this dashing life, to where now he's just sitting in this garage just eating this cheap lunch, you know. And so you can see him go from, you know, surprised to being ashamed to finally, man, you know, this is my brother right here. And he comes up and just gives you know, T Lung just the biggest hug. You know what I'm saying? It's great. It's great. That I'm not ashamed to say that actually tears me up, man. That's such a great scene. You know, just great melodrama, man. Just great. And you know, the last thing I'll mention about Chow Yun-Fat's performance is that you know, and spoilers. I hate to spoil it, but you know, where Chow Yun-Fat, well, Mark rather, Mark makes this heroic last stand, you know, in terms of standing by, you know, his brothers, and you see that Ho and Kit have gotten back together, and like Mark is like that glue. It's like these two brothers, you know, they're still trying to come to, you know, some type of resolution to their relationship. And you know, just Mark, you know, basically takes Kit and he's just like, "Look, your brother is here trying to defend you. You know, these gangsters are trying to kill you. They're trying to kill us, but he's here trying to help you, you know." And just he's the glue trying to put everything together, and then he gets shot. And it's such a surprising scene. I remember gasping audibly. I remember audibly gasping when he got shot. You were not expecting it. You were not expecting it. You know, anyone but Mark, anyone but him. So when it happens, I think everyone is just stunned. Not only are the characters, but even we as the audience are just stunned. And it's like, just oh man, just crazy, just so so crazy, you know, and just yeah, man, just Chow Yun-Fat is he's just remarkable in the movie. And I know I'm out of all over the place on this, but it's so hard to overestimate, his performance in this movie. And one of the things that I wanted to relate was, and I don't think it gets enough mention, is the soundtrack to A Better Tomorrow. I think it was written by Joseph Koo, and Leslie Cheung, the actor who plays Kit, actually sings the ending theme to the film. But I wanted to mention about Joseph Koo's contribution to the soundtrack. On the surface, it's just it definitely has elements of that early to mid 80s type of synth, you know what I'm saying? But it's especially the opening theme is so iconic, If you play that, everybody, many people know exactly what it is. Know exactly. That's A Better Tomorrow. And I like that theme because it almost represents like that early to mid 80s kind of like high life. Like life is good for these guys, they're plenty of money, they're living the fast life, you know what I'm saying? Like they're on top of the world. And so every time I hear that theme, that opening theme for A Better Tomorrow, that's what plays in my head, like man, just being successful, putting on your stunner shades and just doing it, you know what I'm saying? But the other parts that make the soundtrack so effective too are especially the melodramatic parts where you have Koo, with the harmonica, and almost connotating like just a simpler life. These characters, really trying to make amends or just trying to navigate these matters of honor and family, and and it's not as simple as they want it to be, even though you would hope that they would come together. So that harmonica, when that harmonica plays, man, it's just wonderful. I mean, it adds a wistful element to the film as well, and just beyond that, it is standard 80s type of music, but it just works so effectively. But I just wanted to give a mention to Joseph Koo, with that. And speaking of music, there's been a larger impact, on the wider world, with A Better Tomorrow, and speaking of music, Wu-Tang Clan has, made mention of A Better Tomorrow in their particular music. Back in 97 on the Wu-Tang Forever double album, there's a track on there entitled A Better Tomorrow. And I know RZA has dropped, A Better Tomorrow in his lyrics a couple of times, over the years. Not just to that track, but also, I think they came out with an album, Wu-Tang did, in 2014. And the album itself was called A Better Tomorrow. And then to just double down on it, I don't know if they forgot that they already had a track called A Better Tomorrow back in 97, but on the album called A Better Tomorrow, there is a track on this newer album also called A Better Tomorrow. So it's like they just doubled down on it. Okay, we get it. Okay. Y'all love A Better Tomorrow. We get it. All right, RZA. But also, in addition, as far as homages to, the movie, I didn't realize that there had been so many remakes to the film. But prior to that, there were actually 2 sequels to A Better Tomorrow. There was A Better Tomorrow 2 in 1987, and that brought back T-Lung, and also Chow Yun-Fat as Mark's twin brother, if you can believe that. And Chow Yun-Fat once again turns in a totally magnetic performance, as the twin brother of Mark. And part of that too was just because, The original A Better Tomorrow was so popular, and Mark, when he got killed off in the movie, his popularity was through the roof, and I felt like, or I think it's been documented, that Wu and the producers just wanted to bring back that character somehow to capitalize on that. And in my opinion, that's almost the only reason that the movie, even works. Is because of Chow Yun-Fat. Like, the plot is just all over the place. And if it wasn't for Chow Yun-Fat and them trying to, bring that back in the ending shootout, at the end of part 2, the movie is just, I was just like, why did you guys do this? You know what I'm saying? But check it out if you ever get a chance. And then also, there was A Better Tomorrow Part 3, which I have never seen. I've only seen the trailer for it. And that looks wholly unnecessary, actually. Just part 3 is like, what? So it's a prequel that stars Mark, Chow Yun-Fat. And I'm like, that doesn't even look like it was needed. And even Chow Yun-Fat has gone on record to say that he actually doesn't like, A Better Tomorrow Part 2 or 3, but he reprised those roles because, basically, he was kind of told to do so in terms of his people, so to speak, thinking that it would be good for his career or whatnot. But even he doesn't like them, and I kind of agree with him. And there have actually been remakes of A Better Tomorrow as well. I didn't realize that there was one that was made in 1994 called A Return to A Better Tomorrow. And same formula, 3 friends, and I've never seen it, but by the appearance of it, it looks like it's just a remake in name, and they're capitalizing on the A Better Tomorrow name. And then you also had in 2010, there was a Korean remake of A Better Tomorrow. Again, same formula, 3 friends, doing the thing. And then in 2018, I believe you had a Chinese remake of A Better Tomorrow, And then in 2020, there was actually planned A Better Tomorrow, get this, A Better Tomorrow musical. It was planned for early 2020, but obviously with the pandemic and conditions being what they are, unfortunately those plans were postponed, but there are a couple of pictures of, the musical itself. So A Better Tomorrow has had legs and a legacy far beyond that original film, you know what I'm saying? But it's that original film that really sparked everything off, and to me, it's one of my favorites. Definitely check it out if you get a chance. I have it on disc. There's a couple of different versions, on disc, on DVD that you can find. It rarely pops up on streaming. It rarely pops up on streaming, like, Netflix or any of those services. So I believe it's also available on YouTube as well. And you can get it with the subtitles also. But definitely check it out. It's obviously worth your time. That's A Better Tomorrow from 1986 by John Woo. So guys, I appreciate you checking out this first episode of Full Cinematic here on the Inazuma Studios channel. I know kind of my enthusiasm was just all over the place with this film, but I appreciate you guys indulging me. Definitely stay tuned for the next episode in the series. And hey, if you love what you see here, please definitely like, share, and subscribe here on the channel. And also, don't forget, I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Inazuma Studios. And for just $1 a month, you can support this here channel and keep the wheels on this go-kart going. I'm Adrian Johnson, and this has been Full Cinematic.